bring the museum back to life.
You know, people sit out on the front porch hoping people will come by.
Go forth and do good. It's insane. I have the most understanding wife in the world.
I treat everybody the same thing.
Oh, that's the other thing I love about Marietta. It's like a melting pot.
You are listening to Marietta Stories. Each week, veteran podcaster Bill Nowicki brings you the heartwarming, interesting, and fun stories from the people that make the community of Marietta, Georgia, a place to call home. Here's your host, Bill Nowicki.
We have John Silvey with me here at the Zaxbys down on South Marietta Parkway. I've known John for a little while here, but I don't know much about him. Where'd you grow up, John?
I'm originally from Hendersonville, North Carolina.
Really? Really? That's a nice part of North Carolina.
It is.
What brought you down to Marietta?
Actually, I met my wife online, and so I moved down here, and we got married. And
How many years ago was that?
we've been married for 14 years, so
They had online dating 14 years ago?
yeah. We actually met in a divorce chat room.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Chat room. Oh, yeah, I remember those.
Back in the day. Back in the day. Yeah. We had little avatars for who we were and our little names. And
All right, let's go back to the beginning. So what did your parents do?
my mother she worked two jobs, and my dad worked at a technical college. He was the head janitor there, and my mom was the supervisor for a retirement home, and then she would also work a second job, odds and ends here and there for different people.
So when did you start your first job?
I started my first job when I was 14.
I was going to guess real early. What did you do?
I was actually at one of the retirement homes that my mom worked at, or supervised. I was the quote-unquote chef's assistant. So I pureed all the food.
Okay. I guess there was a lot of puree. That was probably a lot of work.
It kept me busy, that's for sure.
What did you learn about people, especially that age? What did you learn from those folks?
If you asked me that when I was 14, I would say people stink. It actually set me on the path where I am now. So I've been in the restaurant business for over 30 years now. Once I left there, I went at 15, went to a little place called Po Folks.
So you can only work for your mom for a year? Is that pretty accurate?
I only wanted to work for my mom for a year. And then I went to as a dishwasher to Po Folks. The Po Folks that I worked at in Hendersonville is no longer there. It's the Po Folks that Jim and Tammy Faye Baker used to come in.
Really?
Yeah.
What were they like outside of TV land? Well, maybe we should explain who Jim and Tammy Faye are a little bit, maybe.
They were evangelists. He's still an evangelist now, but they were TV evangelists, and Tammy Faye was
makeup wearing, heavy duty makeup wearing lady.
Yes, very, very. She's the same way outside. I mean, they acted exactly the same way.
Really?
So yeah.
Yeah, I saw her on a reality show later in her life, I guess after they get divorced, and she unfortunately died of lung cancer, if I remember correctly. So what did you learn working at Po Folks? People don't stink?
People still stink.
I got to edit that out. That doesn't sound right.
Well,
No, maybe.
Well, I don't know.
Keep going.
Yeah. I learned a lot of discipline at Po Folks. So when you're 15, you're going to school, going to work, you learn a lot of discipline. I wasn't one of those guys that went out and partied and stuff like that. I went to work.
Why do you think that is? You didn't have to work necessarily, did you?
No, I didn't have to work. My sister didn't work. My brother was in the Army. I guess that I saw my parents, the way that they are and the way that they were back then. They just worked for what we have. And so I was brought up, whatever you have, you earn. You're never given anything. Truly, if somebody gives you something, then there's usually something in it for them, or a catch, or sometimes now it's not the case, but back then that was the case.
I'm starting to think about why I'm doing this interview now. You just got me thinking. Anyway, forget that. So you were at Po Folks, then where'd you go?
When I turned 16, I went to Long John Silver's, and that's where I stayed most of the time. I was there for 16 years. And I had odd jobs still while I was working there. I started off as a cook, went to a cashier, worked my way up to assistant, Then I finally took over. My first location that I took over was in Boone, North Carolina.
College kids that stink.
Yeah, college kids that stink.
My son went up to App State.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he transferred to NC State, but yeah, he was there a year and a half, 2 years.
Okay. I took over that store. It was in rough shape when I took it over.
Do you like a challenge?
I love a challenge. That's the biggest thing. Like, once I took over that store, then they started moving me around to different stores that weren't doing.
The fixer.
I was the fixer. That was my title.
People hate seeing you come in the door because you're the fixer, or how did you do it?
No, they didn't know who I was. They didn't know who I was.
They didn't have a good network to tell them, oh no, the fixer's coming.
That's right. Yeah. So when I left there, I took over a store in Asheville. I moved to Ohio. Then I went down to Texas, moved to Texas. And then I took over a store down there. Was there for 3.5 years. And when I moved there, I had to get rid of all of the management team there. It was pretty much open to close for me for a long time. But we got it over. Then I was on my way back up to North Carolina, and that's when I went through Georgia to go back up to North Carolina, and then my now wife and I started talking. It just, after I think about a year or so, we decided that one of us is going to have to move. She's a elementary school teacher here. And
what school? Let's plug the school.
Hickory Hills. She's been there for over 30 years now. Same school for 30 years. For her to move to North Carolina, she would lose all of her retirement and everything. Her pay would be $15,000 at that time, $15,000 less than it was now, or when we talked about it. So I just moved down here, and 15 years later, here we are.
Why aren't you at Long John Silver?
First of all, there's not that many down here. I came down here, and they closed the one that I know of that was here on Roswell Road. I think I just wanted something different. I had eaten Zaxbys the days that I had come down here, back and forth on my days off, and I really liked it. Interestingly enough, there's the story that I got into Zaxbys is different than normal. I am a part owner. I came in as an assistant manager for my first location. It's been there for 13 years. And a month after we opened the store, my business partner fired our GM, and I took over the store. And a couple years after that, I bought into our entity, and now we have 2 stores.
Oh, that's great. I was going to ask you what it was like trying to be an assistant manager after being a manager that long, but it didn't seem like it lasted that long.
It was frustrating. Normally when you do an interview for a manager, it's like maybe an hour. Our conversation was 3 hours. And he told me when he hired me, he said, if I didn't have a GM, you would be it. And so I was like, that's okay, because as soon as we open, you'll see. I just took over different stuff that the GM wasn't doing, and after a month, he let him go.
So let's give a little management 101 stuff. So when you come into a store, what did you look at and kind of assess where things were and what you needed to fix?
Well, first you got to look at your people and see if they are guest focused. That's the number one thing, because if your guests aren't being taken care of, then you're not going to have sales. If your employees are doing what they're supposed to be doing as far as guest service is concerned, product service is concerned, then you have to evaluate why are you not getting sales in your store. And if it's from a lack of community service or a lack of guest service, you have to pinpoint where that is. If you're serving cold food, you got to take care of that. If you have rude cashiers, you got to take care of that.
How do you assess that? Do you just hang out as long as the store's open?
You could do that. You could do that, but that would take a while. Certain companies have service checks or guest comments or something like that. And so what I did when I went into all the Long Johns that I was taking over, I would put out surveys for our guests to take and for them to send in either via email or send in to the store or drop off. And I would go over those comments to see, where we were. And then I would actually go out into different areas of the community and talk to people and say, look, I'm just taking over the store. What needs to be worked on? What do you see needs improvement in the store?
So the folks that aren't coming in, why don't they come in?
Most of them was guest service. Most of them was that They were just the cashiers and cooks were just let go to do whatever they want. They're on their phone. Well, back then they didn't have the phones like we do now, but they were like, they didn't care. That's the biggest thing. They just didn't care. That's an easy fix. You give them the option. Either you care or you go away. If you go away, you don't have any more money. Some stayed and some didn't. Some wanted to stay, but some I didn't want to stay. It's really easy once you start going through the process, and you've done it a couple of times, to go to make those decisions.
Hardest thing I've heard from other retail folks is just trying to get people. Is that the case for you?
It is. We're going through that now for both locations. Marietta's in a very low unemployment rate right now. A lot of people have jobs. You got to be the employer of choice. You got to be why people want to come here and work. With our family-friendly atmosphere and our focus on guest service, I think that we are one of the top places to work. It's just finding the people that want to work, that really want to work.
I know you do a huge amount of community outreach, so tell us some of the things you're involved in, like Marietta Business Association. You're the social media guy, is that true?
I am. Okay.
Something you seem like you really love.
I am part of the Marietta Business Association. I'm a corporate sponsor or corporate member with them. And I'm also part social media, something or another. I do their educational social media. I'm also on the Marietta Business Association Education Committee. Julie Michaels and Lilani Plan, they are co-chairs, but I'm on that committee. I go out to the schools with Julie and do the Teacher Hero Award presentation. Teacher Hero Award is an award that's sponsored by Homes for Heroes. So he basically awards a teacher out of each school that's nominated by the administration, a teacher that goes over and beyond. So they get like a little base with a little crystal apple on it. We've been doing that for 4 years now. This is the first year, and I will say that I think since I got involved, this is the first year that every school in the school system, in Marietta City School System, has nominated somebody in their school. And that's including the two schools that aren't in the system, which is Walker and Mount Perrin. This is also the first year that men have been nominated for this award.
That's great. Yeah, and I met you at Marietta High School for the Career Day. Talk a little bit about that.
Yes, the Career Day is an event that we do annually. I think this was our fourth one. We bring businesses in from the community to talk to the students. They come through their lunch. We have 22 minutes per round, and you set up a booth. You get to talk to them about your industry. You were there. You look like you were having a lot of fun. We talked to them about the industry, and if you're hiring, like for us, we had a booth there, and we talked to them about job possibilities and stuff like that. I think next year it's going to get bigger, and we're actually going to move out of that room and go into the gym.
Well, I look around your restaurant. There's pictures of Marietta. There's pictures of the, Bell Bomber plant back in the day. And why is it important to have those around in your Zaxbys location?
My first location is more Zaxby-fied, I will say. That's not even a word, but I'm going to make it a word. When we first opened it, they sent out a decor package, to put everything on the wall. And it was about the surrounding area and the partners that owned it. This second location, I wanted to make it more community-oriented. Before we opened this store, when we were building it, I went on the Marietta City neighborhood page and I asked for donations from the community to put stuff up. 95% of the stuff that's on my walls in this store are donated from the community. We have things from the Strand, from the Visitor Center, from the Museum of Art, from the History Museum, from Southern Poly, which is now KSU. I just got some stuff from Life University. We got stuff from Lockheed. We have a flag that's over our restroom. It was flown in 3 Afghanistan tours. I even have wrestling pictures that were donated from Diamond Dallas Page and signed by the wrestlers, because he has a yoga place over in Smyrna. So I got those, and I got Marietta High School stuff that was donated. So I'm big on community, and I wanted everybody that comes into this store to feel like home and to walk around and be able to see all this stuff. Some people may not even know what some of this stuff is or where it came from. And I'd be happy to tell everybody where everything came from. We even have pictures of the guy that owned the gas station that was here before us, that was donated to us. So I thought that I definitely wanted that in here.
Well, that is so cool, and that's probably why you're the social media committee chair. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, you have like paintings from Marietta Square back when it was not paved. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I love these things. Tell people why it's important to support like Zaxbys in the community and just keep businesses like yours open.
Well, most people wouldn't consider us a small business because we're a chain restaurant. But being a franchise, we are considered a small business. I'm all about helping the small business, no matter who it is. And I think that if you support and serve your community, then they'll do the same for you. I'm a big believer in that. I have a servant's heart. That's where I'm led to do. I have several things that I do in the community besides the Marietta Business Association. I'm the board chair for a program. It's a peer-to-peer program with Julie Michaels.
What's that all about?
It's with the 8th graders at Marietta Middle School, and 5th graders at Park Street Elementary. So we teach the 8th graders to mentor to the 5th graders, and we're actually going to move that program through their grades, so they'll have the same mentor-mentee through those years going through the high school. So they'll actually have a good friend that they'll be able to mentor through their years of school. And the program is the same topics, but like different levels on what they need for life and what they need in social aspects. We have a new set of kids, a new set of students next year. The 4th graders move up to the 5th grade, and 7th graders move up to the 8th grade. So we'll have a new class of them that we'll continue to do through their years also.
Well, I love that idea, because you're not only helping the younger ones, you're helping the older ones to really be mature and step up and say, hey, you need to help these guys out.
That's the consensus of the mentors that we've had, is that this year has been like an eye-opener for them, how to help somebody else. In January, one of the topics that we were doing was giving back. And we had Marlon Longacre from Piedmont Church come out and just talk to the boys. And we only have boys in the program right now. So he was talking to the boys about giving back, and so he was asking them some questions about what they do to give back. And every single one of them had an answer. Every one of them has done something for somebody else, not because they can get something out of it, but to help them. After the topic was done, the boys wanted to do a service project. They came up with service projects. So we had to vote on, they came up with 4 different ones, and they voted on which one that they wanted to do. One was grow fruit trees, and then when the fruit was ready to pick, they wanted to give it to the homeless. And then another was doing a clothes drive for the homeless. Another one was going to the hospital and helping the patients wherever they needed it. And then the other one was going to the square and picking up trash, which is the one that everybody chose. Well, there was that and the hospital. Those are the 2 that were number 1 and 2.
Yeah. And you hear so many negative things about young people and how they're so selfish and things like that. It's great to have that. To me, the opposite of bullying is what you're doing, is basically be empathetic and helping people out.
Right. Nowadays, a lot of people think that younger kids are all about themselves and stuff like that. I actually am sitting on an advisory board for a young lady. Her name is Sophie Edwards. She has a project called Square Meal Project. And when we had those snow days and school was out, she came in here and with volunteers and made up bag lunches and took them out to kids who couldn't get to, who didn't have food or who were low income, and I think she gave out 175 bag lunches to the children in the area that needed it. So I sit on the advisory board for her End Hunger Coalition. She just started that this past Wednesday, and Sophie's a great young lady. She's smart.
How old is she?
She's 15. She's 15.
I can't believe that. I was trying to think what I was doing as 15. I don't even remember. Playing in a band, maybe.
Well, I knew what I was doing at 15, but like it was.
Yeah, you were working.
I was working, but it wasn't that. But so that's her goal. The coalition was to bring everybody that helps children in the Marietta area together and figure out exactly what everybody does and how everybody can help each other to get these children food.
Let's look 5 years ahead. What do you see Marietta being? Because it's a lot of growth around us. The square is huge now. We're making improvements. What do you think it's going to be like in 5 years? And you're seeing the business community and all that. What do you think it's going to be like here besides traffic being worse?
Well, traffic would be the main thing that I think everybody thinks about. I think there's going to be more growth than people actually think that there is. I mean, we got the new market coming up on the square.
That's right.
A lot of restaurants that aren't around here, so a lot of new concepts. Which is great for some and then not so great for some businesses. I mean, it depends on how you look at it. They're putting more homes in West Cobb and East Cobb. In order for all of these homes to be sold, they got to have businesses. They got to have jobs. And I think that the more jobs that we have here, the less congestion that we'll have. In May, Sharon Mason is going to be speaking at the MBA, and she's going to be talking about updates from the chamber. It'll be interesting to hear her take on what's coming, what she knows is coming out.
I wonder what they're going to do with that old AMP just west behind the Waffle House there.
That's one of the biggest topics on Marietta City Neighborhood page, so I'm not really sure. But from my understanding, the roof is bad and everything's bad in it. So
asbestos, I heard the A word.
Yeah, they're going to have to demolish it, I think, and build something different. But I mean, if somebody has the money, they should go in there. That's a good place. That's an excellent place to put something.
If you're supporting sports teams and things, what else do you do?
We do a sponsorship for almost every sport at Marietta High School. We're partners in education. This store is partners in education with 9 of the Marietta City Schools. So we support each one in different ways, depending on what their needs are. We support them monetarily. We support them with food. We support churches.
Food's a big thing in high school.
Food's a big thing in high school.
They can eat a lot of food, those football players.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. We do concessions for the football for the football games. So we're pretty much anywhere that anybody asks us to be. As if we can do it, then we're there.
You were saying you sit on the board. I can't imagine you sitting down. In fact, this is the longest I've seen you sitting down since we've known one another. How do you keep going with all these different things going on? What motivates you every day?
Well, it's interesting because that's not even everything that I do. Because as of right now, I'm casting for a film that I wrote.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so I'm casting for the film that I wrote.
Let's plug that. What is it?
It's called Hidden Mercy. We're going to film it next month. I'm also directing a series trailer called Atlanta Takedown. So I'm doing both next month. Which, by the way, my other film will be at the Strand on the 25th. It's called Hidden Tears. It's about foster care because we were foster parents and we adopted our girls through foster care. But it's kind of a real story, but not. I let DFACS guide me a little bit in this to make sure that I had everything right. They watched it and they said it was the most realistic foster care film that they've ever seen. So I was like, okay, well that's good.
How did you get into film? I got to ask that question.
I actually did an interview. We were catering an event in Atlanta called Get Connected, and it's a film and TV networking event. So we were catering that event. A guy came up to me and he goes, "Hey, I want to do an interview with you. You being a caterer and all that." And I was like, "Okay." I actually have wanted to do film for a long time. I was going to go to school for it, but then I moved back up to North Carolina and didn't do it. So turns out that he was actually a director. A year later, he sent me an email. He goes, "Hey, I remember you said that you wanted to get into film. How would you like to come and direct a film? We'll write it, we'll cast it, we'll get it, we'll film it. All you got to do is direct it." I was like, "Okay, sure, I'll do that." And so they gave me some pointers, while I was doing it. So that was the first one. Then the sound guy on that one actually had a production company, and he was like, "Hey, do you want to do another film?" And I was like, "Sure." So that was the one for foster care. He goes, "Well, what do you want to do it about?" And I was like, "I'd like to do one about foster care." They wrote it, I cast it, so they filmed it, and then we did a third short for DFACS. They had this presentation that they had to do, but they had to do a video for it. And so they knew that I did the foster care one, so they asked us to do that one. And they said it was the best one out of all the regions that they'd seen. So now I'm casting the one that I wrote, and I'll direct.
And when's shooting planned to start?
We plan to shoot probably sometime near the end of May. So I don't know. We'll see.
What? So you're going to go right from the premiere to shooting your next one?
Yes. Yeah.
That's exciting, man. Is there anything else that you do? I didn't even know about the foster care, but it sounds like you got other things you're involved in, more than just running all these businesses and sitting on the committees and giving back to the community and doing the movies. Is there anything else?
No, I think taking care of my 8-year-old twins and my wife, and I think that's it.
Well, that's good. You do probably sleep how many hours a night?
Maybe around 3 or 4, if that.
You are a hardworking guy, and I really appreciate your time here on Marietta Stories podcast, John. I'm excited to hear from people like you that really are part of the fabric that keeps Marietta connected and great. So thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks once again for listening to Marietta Stories podcast. We'll have a new episode out next week. Until then, if you go to the podcast app, you can subscribe. And if you wouldn't mind, tell a couple friends about the show so we can spread the word. Thanks.